Step into a journey where every step is packed with purpose, insight, and empowerment. This is Walk with Wisdom with your host, Genevieve Wisdom. Walk with Wisdom is a dynamic podcast series designed for men and women 40 and over who are ready to embrace their best years yet. Life at this stage isn't about slowing down. It's about leveling up. Each episode is a walkthrough guide to mastering life's transitions, rediscovering passions, and thriving physically, mentally, and emotionally. We bring you expert advice, real-life stories, and actionable strategies to help you stride confidently into a future of vitality and fulfillment. So now, please welcome the host of Walk with Wisdom, Genevieve Wisdom.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, and thank you for joining me on Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle podcast show on youthful aging. Wow, that was a mouthful, and I hope you're excited to get to know me as I get to know you and figure out what is this youthful aging? What is Walk with Wisdom? Is that her real name? What does she have that we haven't heard before that's going to make me want to join week after week to get to know her and change lives? That's the real crux of this show, is that if we spend time together, we go on a walk on youthful aging, we get to change lives and get better at every stage. So, what I thought I'd do today, it's just me and you. It's the second level of intro, and I'm just going to go a little bit deeper on some of the things that make me click, and hopefully, what makes me click makes you click. By the way, I just want to thank everyone who sent in questions. I love communication. That's the number one thing you'll get to know from me is when you give me feedback, it really gets me going. And all the things that we've talked about and where I am at this age to share my wisdom, it really triggers things. And that way I can give you more of what you want to hear. So thank you, everyone who sent questions in. What I did was put the questions that came in. And by the way, I'm going to do this early so you know. The best way to get a hold of me is wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. That's my email. Comes directly to me. So that's where I got some questions. I put those questions with the questions that the beautiful Megan used to introduce me. And today we're going to just go through exactly what the tenets of the show is. And then at the end of this show, my hope is that you'll say, you know, Genevieve, I would love for you to talk more about this in future episodes. I love that because I want to make the time that you spend with me live valuable. And when you listen in later on YouTube, Spotify, all the different platforms, I want that time to be exceptionally valuable. And the best way I can do that is when you communicate with me. So I wanted to start with one thing. So it's an intro from last week, and now we're going to stack. We talked about words last week. I love the word stacking. And it's really putting different things one on top of the other to get a better result and get a result faster. One of the ways in which I use stacking a lot is with skin. As we get younger, as we youthful age, our skin changes. And one of the ways to make our skin look amazing so that when we look in the mirror in the morning, even though there are changes, it's the best version of us after, let's say, 40. And so we're going to stack on the questions that we asked last week that I thought might be great questions to introduce me, who I am to you. And now I'm going to put the questions you sent me. I have some notes, and we're just going to have a walk with wisdom for the next 45 minutes or so that's remaining in the show. One thing I wanted to say from the get-go is thank you for your time. There are two things that, as I've gotten younger, that's what I always say, over 40 and over 50, we're getting younger, is that our most precious resource is time. a lot of times we focus on money being the most precious resource. And absolutely, we need money. Without it, we can't function in the world that we live in. However, that is not the most precious resource because you can always make more money. But for us in our individual lives, we can't make more time. So I always take time to thank you for your time. And whether you're watching me live, and especially on the live shows, it's the middle of the workday. It's 1 p.m. PST. Hi, my PST fans. I have fans already. Thank you for your comments. I'm loving them. Keep them coming. On YouTube, that's the one that I'm seeing a lot of comments. But you can send your comments, of course, anywhere. So it's 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. EST. It's still the middle of your day, whether it's with family, etc., and you're taking time to be here with me live. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And equally, if your life is just listen, I understand how busy it is, and go, Genevieve, I wanted to be there, just can't, but I'm going to check you out on all the other platforms. And so again, the list is everything that's out there that's major, like Spotify and Apple and YouTube and LinkedIn. If later on, you're with a friend or with the family or just your downtime and say, let me check out some wisdom later on. Thank you for your time, your most precious resource. Another thing I wanted to talk to you, because we're just talking here as you get to know me as your host before we get deeper into the show. Um, I talked about authenticity. So I wanted to pull out a few words that was introduced last week and stack them, go a little bit deeper. What does that mean to Genevieve, and see if it resonates with you? And that's my hope. Um, so authenticity, I brought up that I like to be authentic. And one of the things and ways of being authentic is, for instance, in the podcast world, if you're looking for a perfect podcast, I'm sorry, hate to break it to you, it's not this one. And here's why: life happens. So I'm not here to pretend with you and say, oh my goodness, everything is just perfect. And when you come with me in the 1 hour, we have this perfect little bubble, because that's not life. However, what we will do is we will traverse lives with its ups and downs, its imperfections, whatever life throws us. We get lemons, we make spicy lemonade. That's my accent. You guys can guess where I'm from. Oh, that's not fair. Some of you already know. um, so we're just going to be in our imperfect perfection. We're going to have this show and come for a walk on all these different topics in which I have been very, very um, just honored that my friends and clients and my new friends and new clients have asked me to share my wisdom, because I have experience and expertise over the years. Um, One thing that I love to use, get a little bit to know me a little bit more, I love paper. And when I say love paper, please, all I mean by that is I have my notes written down and I have it highlighted, because your time is valuable. So it just kind of keeps me in check. So if you see me looking down, I have a list of notes. I'm actually going to read some of the questions and keep going on them with you. So I have paper and I love highlighter. Did any of you guys do that? I went back to school in my late 30s to an undergrad. And all these I was 20 years older than the majority of my cohorts. They didn't know that because I youthful age. I use skincare and nutraceuticals, and we're going to talk about that. But what I had was my paper with all my notes to organize it and all these color coding highlights, and I have it here. That's how you get to know me a little bit more authentically. And so let's just go into stacking on the questions that was asked last week and this week. So here we go. Um, so we talked about the name, and I still had some questions from people wondering, Genevieve, is Wisdom really a last name? And is it really your last name? And yes, it is. It's a British heritage, actually. At least that's where my heritage of wisdom comes from. It's British. But I've heard things like it could be Scottish as well. So it's from those parts. But remember, Um, our world is so diverse, and we come from all different corners of the earth. Remember, I mentioned that I've been to 32 countries, and it's so amazing that we're all people and we bring all the different nuances to our experience. So, wisdom, the root of my word, the real name, not a made up name, is British. Some say Scottish, and I just found out I have a little bit of Irish. We'll talk about that later. Um, and the reason why I wanted to do this show again, which is what I'm going to go deeper on, is just the areas in which I have lived, and when I say lived, the areas in which I have experience primarily with different career paths. So I started out fashion modeling. I did a little bit of a tidbit, an intro to that. Then I went into health, and I did medical imaging called thermography. And that's where I started my love for nutraceuticals, which is researched vitamins and minerals. And then I went into insurance, and finance. And so those are the three main areas in which we're going to really talk about the show and really talk about it in reinvention, in a reinventive way. When you're 40 and over, because that is the main generation that I'm reaching with this show, and that's why I call it youthful aging. It's really for the genre, my generation, 40 and over. However, we're going to talk a little bit later about the crossover to younger generations and how, my goodness, I would say it's now almost 50-50. The group of people that come to me for my wisdom and really care about the experience that I have, but also the education and how I put it together to help in different areas. I have so many younger men and women wanting to start youthful aging in their late teens, their 20s, their 30s. And guess what? They're actually brilliant. That is when you can start doing things like things for your hormonal health, cleansing, which we're going to talk about, all these things that you may have heard of. And remember, we also mentioned that we're going to talk about things that you've heard of, but you may not have heard it quite this way. And so, for instance, when we talk about cleansing. What is a cleanse really? Do cleanses work? And we're talking about cleansing nutritionally, because there are many different kinds of cleansing. You can cleanse from a device. You know, now that's a very popular thing with the device age is say, okay, no phone after 7 p.m. This week. That might be something that we want to do as a little challenge. By the way, on this show, we're going to do many challenges along the way. And when I say challenge, it's really a walk. Come along with me. I'm doing this. A lot of the clients and other people that you may not know, but with this amazing platform, I get to know so many of you from all over the world. You're going through the same wins, things that need to change, and we do it together. We go for a walk. We do it together. We share our wins. We share, we need to some help here, and we do that. So we may have to do some kind of a device cleanse. Oh, I like that device cleanse because we're going to do cleanse on hormones. We're going to talk about nutraceutical cleanse. I'm going to do a show that's called Demystify Your Supplements. Imagine that. Now, there are those of you who already know me and from life coaching as well, and know that nutraceuticals have been a major part of what I've done more recently. And what that means is I've helped clients with nutraceutical protocols from, what can I do for my immune system? I see this on YouTube, I see this on Google. Does that work? To more in depth ways of helping them with nutraceutical protocols, like helping them alongside, of course, with your primary care practitioner. We're just talking here, we're going for a walk. So, almost always with your primary care practitioner. As a coach, I come in the middle and I give you the time to explain why you're on certain nutraceuticals, what they do, when you should take these certain nutraceuticals, because sometimes your primary care practitioner just doesn't have the time. So, Genevieve Wisdom, Walk with Wisdom. I'm primarily a life coach, and I'm here for you to walk with me on this coaching journey to learn how to do all these different things, and we all get better doing it. I'm just going to take a quick moment to pause. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to go a little bit deeper on Walk with Wisdom. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Walk with Wisdom. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, your host, and this is a lifestyle show on youthful aging. Youthful aging, you ask. Isn't that like anti aging? Let's actually talk about that term. It's something that's actually quite endearing to me and those that I've shared it with. And, you know, now that you know me a little bit, coming from a fashion background, I'll just give you a little bit of a visual. So 5'8", around 13, that would be me, probably 110 pounds. Well, things have changed now that I'm a woman at 55. Am I still 5'8"? Someone bring the tape measure. I'm joking, there's no one else here, but you know how we shrink as we get older. And that, by the way, is true. And here's why. In our spine, we have something called, they're the discs. There's fat between the discs. We have synovial fluid, which is the fluid that causes the spine just to, be able to be so flexible. And the things that I used to do when I was younger, how I could bend and run, you can't as you get older. But as those, the fluid and the discs, they kind of harden with age, then you shrink. You don't have that buffer in between. So that's just a quick and dirty explanation, kinesiology 101, as to why we get shorter with age. However, with nutraceuticals, there are things that you can do to actually help to lengthen, stretch, certain exercises, certain exercise equipment that I learned of in Europe actually, when I would hang upside down on a recliner and it would just really stretch that spine. That's really, really great. But imagine me going and the rest of us, because as we youthful age, I know I'm not the only one. Can you make a comment if you're not the same as you were at 13 in, let's say, your 40s and 50s, just in how your body look and feel? And you know what? That's okay. Let me hear you say it. That's okay. Now, here is what we're going to do on Walk with Wisdom with Youthful Aging. We're going to walk with me with the experts that I have, the expert guests, my expertise, my passion. You can tell that I have passion. Whatever I do, I just do it all in. I'm all in doing it. By the way, um, obviously, you have probably figured out that English, I love English. I speak it very well. But a lot of us now, where we live in the world, we're multilingual. And so give me that grace and that authenticity. If sometimes my English may be a little bit backwards or a little bit tongue tied, it's just because sometimes I'm still translating to come across to you. But that's the authentic me. So imagine coming from 13, walking. Now I'm a woman in my mid 50s, and we have plans when we're young. And I don't think I'm the only one. As a matter of fact, I know I'm not the only one. It's like you're reading my mind in the comments. Um, it's that I'm not the only one that if you plan to do something, it just doesn't work out that way. But you know what? We keep going. So, one of the tenets of the show is about reinvention, it's about perseverance. Um, it's about whatever we thought, let's say we would be at 25. And I chose 25 because starting with the show, meeting my generation, it's really for people 40 and over. However, as I said, I cannot leave out the youth who have come to me in their youth with their youthful wisdom asking me, Genevieve, how do we traverse life and how do we help ourselves to have a solid foundation now so we may avoid some of the pitfalls? Maybe we may avoid some of the life changes to the physical body as much as we can by making some changes that you're talking about now to your audience of those 40 and over. And I love that. Um, so, as I mentioned, I put some questions together. And again, thank you guys for sending me questions. Please do wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. That's my email. I only give that one out because that one is dedicated to the show. So, whenever you send a comment or a question you might have for me and for the show, I might pick the question as we go deeper into the show. Or I might do what I did today, which is put it together with other questions like FAQs and talk about it. So please don't hesitate. You know the old adage, no silly questions. So send a question and then, of course, make your comments. And when you look at the different platforms, if you have questions after the show isn't live, please go ahead. We'll take it up the next time. So, one of the things that I'm going to talk about right now is the power of reinvention. And we reinvent at many different stages in life. It's not just now that we have to reinvent. One of the reasons why I started Walk with Wisdom, again, it's because everyone said to me, Genevieve, how do we look good and feel amazing as we age? The looking good is important because now that I mentioned again, coming out of a fashion modeling background, looking good was about physicality. It was about body size, skin, beauty. But the good news is, I have lived long enough to see a lot of those norms, societal norms about what looking good means change. It's changed along many, many, many lines from size, body size, height, um, color, status, all the different things that made us look good, that has changed. And again, I'm going to go back to some of the tenets of the show And one major tenet that's really close to my heart is making your life extraordinary. Another excitement for me in doing this show is we look at stars, and trust me, I look at the stars, but just being authentic, I'm not a billionaire. Oh, wait, I'm not. I am extraordinary. And that's okay. And in that place, how can we experience youthful aging, experience the joy of life, look good, and feel amazing as we age without it costing us things that are just astronomical that we may never experience in your life as far as financially? And so I have so many things that we can do together, so many amazing things to make our extraordinary lives even more extraordinary right where we are. We're not all called to be stars and be out there in everything. I remember, I'll tell you a story. Remember, I talk in stories. So there was a janitor, and as a matter of fact, um, my mom was a housekeeper and nanny for many years. And there was a janitor that we met. And this janitor, people, I'm telling you, the joy that exuded from this man was just, it was catching. It doesn't matter what kind of day you were having. You meet him and he'd be cleaning a toilet and singing, and you're going, what is going on? And he told me, and I was very young at the time, he told me that it doesn't matter what you do, you can be exceptional, you can change lives, you can be extraordinary. People are watching you. So here he was, a janitor, and he was a janitor at the schools, at the churches, at many different places, big office buildings. And he knew that people were looking at him, and he spread his joy everywhere being a janitor. And so I have loved that. And because I came from a family of housekeepers, we made sure that whatever we did, we spread joy and we made it in the ordinariness of life. It can be extraordinary. So let's reinvent in our midlife. I am going to read a little excerpt because I don't think I'll do it justice just talking off the cuff. Now, something else you need to know about me: full disclosure, authenticity. I'm writing a book. I know what you're saying. I saw some of the comments. Thank you. Thank you. I don't call names yet. We'll figure that out later. But thank you for really going back and forth on the comments with me. I am writing a book, and I know what you're thinking is everybody has a book. And yes, again, something else that I'm so grateful to have lived to see change. So people in my generation, maybe not you youngins, and I know I have my young brothers and sisters, my young youthful agers out there. Um, what we've seen over the decades is where writing a book, you had to just be in the corner and you had to go and get a PhD to write a book. And now writing a book doesn't take away from those people who have that skill, because that is not me. But you can actually just put your knowledge on paper or an Audible, and people say, yeah, you know what? Thank you, Genevieve, for your wisdom in this. I am going to give you my most precious resource of time and listen to what you have to say, and hopefully use some of what you've said with your knowledge and wisdom to change my life. So I'm writing a book. The book is on youthful aging. And as a matter of fact, I have someone helping me to write. We'll talk about that. There's going to be a writing show, by the way. And as we talk about reinvention, so going back to reinvention, after 40, not only do we want to look good and feel amazing as we age, but it's really a time of doing the things we get to do, not the things we have to do. I brought that up last week as well. And what that means is when we're younger, there are things we have to do, especially when we're living with family. We have to finish school, finish university. There's a social net, there's a social clock, or we have to get married and have children because that was our choice, or we have to go and make money so we can buy a house. All these different have tos. When we get to a certain age, the kids are grown up. We have our careers. We've met all these social milestones. Now we get to do things. So after 40 is actually a phenomenal time to start that business you've dreamt about. Revive25, which is the name of the skincare that I have, that it's phenomenal. It's not just about skin. It's not just about on the outside. And the tagline for this skincare is beauty from the outside in. Because we see our skin every day, people experience us by what we look like. But then we go deeper. So we go deeper with taking nutraceuticals to help our skin look amazing, along with the cosmeceutical, which is the organic skincare on the outside. But we go deeper to the heart of the matter. The things we've dreamt about that we didn't get a chance to accomplish, we can do them 40 and over. It's about reinvention. So, we're going to talk about how we do that. I'm going to actually do that on our next break. I'll read the question, it's an excerpt from the book, and we'll go through it step by step. And I'll give you some tips on wisdom tips on reinvention. I like that, wisdom tips. Put in the comments if you like that. Wisdom tips. I thought I'd give wisdom tips at the end of every show, not because I'm so wise. It's really much wiser people than I have crossed my path, and they have added their wisdom to mine, and I have the immense pleasure and gratitude to share my wisdom with you. This is Walk with Wisdom. I'm Genevieve Wisdom. We're going to just have a brief break for sponsors, and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, host of Walk with Wisdom, your lifestyle show on youthful aging. Now, thank you for coming back. We're going to talk about reinvention and reinvention in every way. Don't quit ever, ever. I want to hear you say it. I won't quit ever. Don't quit ever. Um, there is going to be a show where we'll tell stories, because every life has a story. And as you know, Genevieve Wisdom, one of my tenets that I've learned, and I've learned it from some really amazing teachers, business teachers, is to talk in stories, because it gives us a visual, it gives us that emotion. But that was me anyway, so it really makes sense. So we're gonna have a story time episode, and where I would love to have some of you who have been watching the show from the beginning potentially. So keep on watching. Um, Send in your story, and maybe we could share your life story, and then we can tie it into a reinvention show. So again, let me just tell you the best way to get a hold of me, which is wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. However, the Bold Brave platform is also an exceptional place for you to go, like the show, follow the show, all that stuff that we have to do nowadays, just so that we can have this talk. Have this talk in an authentic way. Before we talk about reinvention, let's talk about authenticity. So I'm talking about youthful aging, and you're probably looking at my face and you're going, she don't got no makeup on. I don't. I don't. I have never, and I know it's so odd. My friends don't get it, and family, they go, we don't get it. I can't do hair. and I can't do makeup. And so for my hair, when you see me, I clip it on. It takes me about 30 seconds. If I don't take about a couple minutes or less to get ready, it's too much for me. And especially at this age, when we're going to talk about different things that happen to women and men as we get older, a major life change, I just need to get going. And so I clip on the hair. I have the Revive25 skincare. I may put a little bit of lipstick on, but I don't think I did that today. And I'm here. I'm authentic. I'm here with you. It's life. It's real life. If you don't need to put on tons of makeup and dress up, but you want to put your best face forward, you can. And that's what I'm here to tell you. So walk with wisdom in these areas. Reinvention. Let me read an excerpt from the book, and we're going to talk a little bit about reinvention. And see, I have to put my spectacles on. I'll put the paper down. So, we talked about this last year, and it's an excerpt. Midlife isn't a pause, it's a powerful reinvention. So, walk with wisdom. We throw out outdated ideas about aging and we replace them with vitality, confidence, and transformation. So, of course, I have spent 25 years helping people take control of their health, beauty, and mindset. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, a community, and a guide to your next level. Then he talks about me being a life coach a little bit, which is important for you to know when you're trying to decide what to do with your valuable time. Well, why would I even tune into Walk with Wisdom? We talk about this and then what happens? Well, I'm a life coach. You can send me a question. We can have a complimentary session. If there's something that you're working through and you go, I need a coach. And by the way, we all need a coach. We all need a coach. And there are many, many different coaches. And we'll talk about life coaching a little bit later. That's going to be one of the segments and what that really means and what I bring. And that's why I loved life coaching versus some of the more structured places. Now, sometimes we need a psychologist or a psychotherapist, and they're all places in our lives for all these things. But for me, I like being a coach. I come alongside you and I walk with you. Hey, I just thought of that. Walk with wisdom. Totally me. So, as a life coach, I know the power of relatability. Relatability helps us to reinvent any part of our lives where we need change. And that is going to set me up for the reinvention part of this podcast. So, because midlife isn't the end, it's a beginning, I wanted to talk about real life midlife things that are going on. Thank you for your comment. I just saw one of my valued viewers talk about midlife changes. And then I had one of the youngins say, tell me how to avoid avoid some of the things they know that I'm going to talk about. So one of the midlife changes that happens, especially for us girls, well, let me rephrase that. It happens to all of us, but it's very obvious and overt for women, and it's menopause. And guess what? Okay, I have to put down my stack of papers. So I've been actually struggling with it. Authenticity, full disclosure. And it has been a challenge. And I love challenges. So I thought, if this challenge shows up in my life, I didn't plan for it. So that's all about the walk with wisdom journey for your life. You didn't plan for a challenge, but it shows up in your life and you go, okay, now I have a choice. Am I going to let this challenge take me out? Or am I going to figure out a way to overcome this challenge? And I prefer the latter. And I hope all my valued friends and family and new friends, new family, all our listeners and all the different platforms, whether it be on Spotify or LinkedIn or YouTube, all the different platforms. I hope that you come alongside me with whatever challenge it is, and let's see if we can walk through it together. And notice a word that I said that's very important. You walk through a challenge. So you start here, it's just like, oh my word, it's a giant mountain. I can't go up it because I don't mountain climb. I can't go through it because obvious reason, can't go around it. What do I do? Well, let's walk. Let's do a walk in figuring out the things that we can do one step at a time to overcome challenges. So when it comes to midlife, I thought, who am I kidding? And those of you who know me are going, Genevieve, give us your wisdom on menopause. And then I started to see menopause everywhere. I have, I believe, some new ways of thinking about menopause, some new ways of dealing with menopause, um, some ways that you may have heard, but you didn't quite hear it like that before. So the first show is really going to be talking about menopause. And here's what it looks like. There's the symptom. I'm having a hot flash right now. I have great skin, I know, but when it looks like it's a little oily, now you know I don't wear makeup, but it's because of the hot flash. And so, with the symptoms like the hot flashes and the sleeplessness and the hair loss and the mood changes and the weight gain and all these different things, we're going to talk about those. However, those are symptoms. But we have to talk about what is foundational that causes those symptoms for a woman in menopause. Things like, are you going to the bathroom? I know we're going to talk about poop and menopause. What? Okay, this girl is off her rocker. I know what you're thinking. Thank you for the comments. Yes, no, I'm not. But here's why. I'll tell you a story. I have had incredible mentors in my life. I couldn't name the amount of people that have spent time delineating their wisdom, which now allows me to be so full of this knowledge and be able to give it back to you, because in life, we should be a river, not a reservoir. Things should pass through us. We shouldn't be hoarding it all, the good stuff, not at all. And if we have some bad stuff, we need to let that go too. That's going to be another show. But I've had some incredible mentors mentor me and tell me about life. And we're specifically talking about the health aspect in menopause. And one of the things was this pharmacist, he was an integrative pharmacist. And he said, Genevieve, you have a lot of women that you're dealing with when I was doing thermography. And he said, everybody can get this, including you girls. You have a car. You have to wash the car before you polish it. Going to the bathroom is washing the car before you polish it. So, and guys don't experience this like we do. Sorry, boys, we know. From our fathers to our brothers to our husbands to all of that, we know they don't experience this like we do. But girls, often we struggle with constipation and different things. And so when it comes to menopause, you may not have heard, and you may have, and we'll go into it a little bit deeper, how to keep your colon clean. Because if your colon is clean, then of course you're excreting all the waste. There's not as much stress on the liver. So we want to make sure we keep the liver strong when it comes to menopause. That's probably something that hasn't been a link, like a light bulb link. When it comes to menopause, you're having all these hot flashes, and then you don't think, oh, my colon, I've got to be going to the bathroom. Oh, my liver, I've got to make sure that's clean. Take the fat out of the liver. So that's how the shows in Walk with Wisdom will be. Things you've heard of, but there'll be a little twist. You may not have heard of it quite like that before, or you may have heard of it, but you may not have heard of a specific product or a specific way to do it or a specific way to think about it, because a lot of it has to do with mindset change. So we are definitely going to talk about menopause. And of course, what we all think about is the hormone change. Now, remember, this is a talk show. So you have your primary care practitioner, and that's who you listen to. And we come here and we talk it out. So we all hear about hormones, and it's so confusing. I did a tiny bit of endocrinology. And when I say a tiny bit, I'm not an endocrinologist. However, there is a hormonal cascade that happens, and it happens in menopause. And what it means is, of course, for women, by the way, did you know that a lot of people don't know what menopause means? And I haven't told you yet. Have I? I don't think I have. Let me know in the chat if I had, but I haven't told you that exactly where I'm from. I've given hints. You can probably pick up the accent, but I haven't come out and told you yet because that's for a show on its own. But we're very funny people in my culture, and I am multicultural. I have many, many, many different blood through in my veins. Um, and I have had the blessing and the gift of being in a multicultural society my entire life. And so a lot of people that I call family look nothing like me on the outside, but we're so family on the inside. And by the way, that's what I'm hoping with you. I have that gift and that knack, and that's what I'm hoping with my wisdom we'll get there. And so back to menopause, back to the hormonal cascade. You may have menopause actually means menses cessation, the cessation of menses, hence menopause. In my culture, they call it womenopause. They're going, why should it be called menopause? Should be called womenopause. That's funny. That's a joke. We get to laugh here, which is awesome. So, everyone, that's a good note to take another quick break on. We'll talk about menopause, the hormonal cascade. That's going to be really deep the next show, and I will have a guest. I will have an amazing guest and expert. We'll take a break to hear from our valued sponsors right now. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, host of Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle show on youthful aging. Thank you for coming back. Now, in this segment, it's going to be our wisdom tips segment. And what that means, it's a little bit shorter. And so I kind of do a little bit of a wrap up of what we've talked about in the show. So, what was it that we talked about? We talked about who I am in general, because every life has a story, and the stories are insurmountable. In the few moments we have here, which are so special, I just want you to get the big picture to decide, why would I walk with wisdom weekly? What does this woman with the unique last name have to delineate wisdom in my life? And so we talked about my talking about useful aging and all the different things that affects that, like your skin, but going from your skin to within. So, nutraceuticals. So, looking good and feeling amazing as we age, and nutraceuticals being researched vitamins and minerals. They actually make a change in the body when you take it. And so, if you're using, for instance, a resveratrol toner, which I have in Revive 25, and you take resveratrol inside, which is an antioxidant, it decreases inflammation. And I know you've all heard about inflammation. Well, inflammation shows up on the skin in wrinkles, it shows up in your joint, in pain. And that's one way of stacking things. We talked about stacking. So, stacking is putting things one on top of the other so you have a better result. I gave you an example just now of stacking skincare. Resveratrol outside, resveratrol inside. Help the skin on the outside, help the joints on the inside. Then we came full circle to talk about my wanting to be really authentic at this age. And you're getting younger, wink wink, when you start to talk about at this age. At this age, I heard my older brothers and sisters say that, you just tell it as it is. And I'm there. I just tell it as it is. Now, it doesn't mean that I force my opinion on you. I just hope that with my experience, my education, putting it together, and for those of you who've said to me, Genevieve, you have done so many things, you've traversed so many things, we want to hear your wisdom on it. Thank you for pushing me to do this show. And I hope I get a host of people who want to hear that wisdom as well. This show is going to start with menopause wisdom. And so I introduced menopause a little bit on the last segment, mentioning that we have to think about it whole. So, in ways you may not have thought about it, like, what does menopause have to do with me going to the bathroom? And I mean, number two, um, what does menopause have to do with my liver? Just ways that you may not have thought about it. We're going to not only think about it here, we're going to go for a walk, a journey. We're going to have an explanation of it. Um, I'm going to have excellent experts in that area. However, keeping in mind that I have over 25 years of being in integrative medicine, so I also have excellent expertise. However, how I can support you, my valued audience, is as a life coach and coaching you through it. So you may go to your doctor, your naturopath, they give you things and you go, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. What do I do? Ask wisdom for her wisdom. And the last thing that I wanted to mention to you about the coming up show in Wisdom Tips is, how do you prepare for the next show? So if you're a male or you have a male in your life, um, men go through it too. It's called menopause. Yeah, a little play on words. And usually menopause happens about a decade after it happens with women, and that is when there is cessation of menses. So we're not talking about the peri stage. So there's a stage 10 to 15 years before the thing actually happens, that the thing starts planning to happen. I'm telling you, we're going to have a nice walk with hormones and menopause and perimenopause and all those different things. So tips, just look at your life right now so we can go on a walk. How is your colon health? Do you know what a colonic is? What do you take for your colon? When I was modeling, us girls would never mention it. Are you kidding me? We would rather explode than. So, how is your colon health? Very important for this stage of life, but starting in your youth. Think about it. If you pile up all of that for decades, then you have a much more difficult situation on this side. So, how's your colon? Think about your colon. When we come back, we'll talk about colon. And then, if you're good with that, think about your liver. There is a huge term that's going around that we will have a liver segment, and it's called NAFLD, non alcoholic fatty liver disease. That means that your liver has fat in it. And here's what happens when the liver has fat in the cells, it doesn't function how it should. Here's why the liver is so important to menopause, peri, absolutely everything, brain health, you name it. The liver does 500 plus jobs. Again, I had an incredible mentor, a naturopathic doctor here, but really universally acclaimed. And he wrote some books about the liver. So, over 500 jobs, but two of the main ones, because time and money, we don't have time, and really, I wouldn't send you on a so there's my English, on a chasing as to what should we buy to help this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So we're going to focus on only 2 out of the 500. Deal? And 2 of the things is it breaks down our hormones and it breaks down our food. So, of course, when we're in menopause, we get the meno belly or we get that mano belly. A lot of fat accumulates, but if we take the fat out, whether or not it's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it's not because we've been down at the pub. It's just something that happens. And did you know that babies can be born with NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? So come back for a walk with wisdom. We have a great show coming up next week, and it's probably going to be more than 1 week because that's the great thing about going for a walk. We don't rush it. We take the time that we need because it's time well spent. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your comments. And if you want your question to be addressed, send directly to me an email, wisdom@walkwithwisdom.ca. And thank you for looking on Spotify and LinkedIn and YouTube, all those different platforms. I appreciate you. Bye for now.
This has been Walk with Wisdom with host Genevieve Wisdom. Tune in each week as Genevieve will present powerful guests who will inspire you to make every step count. Whether you're walking your dog, tackling your morning run, or enjoying a quiet moment with your headphones, Walk with Wisdom is your companion for redefining what it means to age powerfully and intentionally. Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Powered by B2 Studios. Take the first step with us because wisdom isn't about what you've left behind. It's about everything that lies ahead.